The space around the Kepler Nebula was filled with explosions and laser fire. Admiral Kethvar watched from his command chair as another coalition ship exploded in a ball of orange flame. The insect-like Vorth Empire had them trapped. Their fleet of 200 ships surrounded the nebula like hungry wolves. "Sir, we have lost the cruiser Starlight," reported his communication officer. "That makes 12 ships destroyed in the last hour." Kethvar closed his 4 eyes and felt his blue skin turn pale. The coalition had been fighting the Vorth for 30 years. Every battle ended the same way. The Vorth were too strong, too fast, and too many. Their black ships looked like giant beetles with sharp claws and glowing red eyes. "Send another distress signal," Kethvar ordered. "Maybe someone will hear us." Lieutenant Valana shook her head. "Sir, we are too far from Coalition space. No one can reach us in time." The Vorth had been smart. They had driven the Coalition fleet into this remote area of space where no help could come. The nebula blocked most communications. Soon the Vorth would move in for the final attack. On his main screen, Kethvar could see the lead Vorth ship. It was twice the size of his flagship. Its captain, Commander Zixlock, had sent a message an hour ago. The Vorth wanted the Coalition to surrender. They would take prisoners and use them as slaves. Kethvar would rather die. "Sir," the sensor officer suddenly stood up. "I am reading a new ship on long-range sensors." "Vorth reinforcements?" Kethvar asked. "No, sir. The design is unknown. It is approaching from outside the system." On the main screen, a new ship appeared. It was smaller than most Coalition vessels, but looked different from anything they had seen. The hull was gray metal with strange markings. Instead of the smooth curves of Coalition ships or the spiky armor of Vorth vessels, this ship looked practical and tough. "They are sending a communication," Valana reported. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was clear and confident. The being spoke perfect Galactic standard, but there was something different about the accent. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the UES Liberty. We received your distress signal. Are you in need of assistance?" Kethvar blinked his 4 eyes. "Unknown vessel. This is Admiral Kethvar of the Coalition fleet. You are entering a combat zone. The Vorth Empire has us surrounded. I suggest you leave immediately." "Negative, Admiral. We are here to help. One ship cannot fight 200 Vorth vessels. Save yourselves." There was a pause. Then Captain Morrison spoke again. "Admiral, you are about to learn something about humans. We have never lost a war we were determined to win. Humans?" Kethvar had never heard of this species. The Coalition included dozens of races, but humans were not among them. On the Liberty's bridge, Captain Jake Morrison stood with his hands behind his back. He was a tall man with short brown hair and calm green eyes. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth and commanded ships for 15 years. "Amy, what do you see out there?" he asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Amy Carter was a young woman with black hair tied back in a tight bun. She studied her screens with the focus of a hunter. 200 Vorth ships arranged in a standard siege formation. They have the Coalition fleet trapped in the nebula. Energy signatures suggest they are charging weapons for a final attack. "Ben, how are our systems?" Commander Ben Phillips was a stocky man with gray hair and steady hands. He had been an engineer for 20 years. "All systems green, Captain. Weapons ready. Engines at full power. The reactor is running hot, but she will hold." Morrison nodded. He had been watching this war for months from the edge of known space. Earth had sent the Liberty to observe and learn. They had studied both sides, learning their languages and tactics. The Coalition seemed decent. The Vorth were clearly the aggressors. "Sir," Amy said, "the Vorth commander is sending us a message." "Let me hear it." A harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge. Commander Zixlock spoke in Galactic standard, but his words were filled with anger. "Unknown ship? You will leave this system immediately or be destroyed. The Coalition fleet is our prize. Do not interfere," Morrison smiled coldly. "Tell him we decline his generous offer." "Sir, he is demanding to know what species we are." "Tell him he is about to find out." The Vorth had made a mistake. They thought one small ship could not matter. Morrison had seen this kind of thinking before. Earth's enemies had made the same error many times. "Amy, target their command ship. Load kinetic rounds." "Kinetic rounds loaded, sir." "Ben, give me everything the engines have." "Yes, sir. All power to engines." The Liberty suddenly accelerated toward the Vorth fleet. On Admiral Kethavar's screen, the human ship was moving faster than should be possible. Coalition ships could not move that quickly. "What are they doing?" Valana whispered. The Liberty flew straight toward the center of the Vorth formation. 200 enemy ships turned their weapons toward the small human vessel. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled space around the Liberty, but the ship moved like a dancer, avoiding most shots and shrugging off the rest. "How are they surviving that much fire?" Kethvar asked. On the Liberty, Morrison watched the tactical display. "Amy, fire when ready," the human ship's main gun spoke. But instead of energy beams, they fired solid metal slugs accelerated to incredible speed. The rounds hit Commander Zixalok's ship and punched straight through its armor like it was paper. The Vorth command ship exploded. "Target the next largest ship," Morrison ordered. For the next hour, the Liberty danced through the Vorth fleet like a wolf among sheep. Human kinetic weapons tore through Vorth armor. Human missiles tipped with nuclear warheads turned enemy cruisers into clouds of gas. Human tactics learned from centuries of warfare on Earth confused and terrified the Vorth. The Liberty did not fight like other species. It did not try to disable enemy ships or capture them.
It simply destroyed anything that threatened it.
The humans fought like they wanted to kill everything in space. One by one, Vorth ships began to retreat. Then dozens fled. Finally, the entire fleet abandoned their siege and jumped to hyperspace. Admiral Kethvar stared at his screen in shock. In 1 hour, a single human ship had defeated a Vorth fleet that had been winning the war for 30 years. "Captain Morrison," he called over the communication channel. "How is this possible?" Morrison's voice was calm. "Admiral, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We have learned that sometimes peace can only be achieved through superior firepower. Would you like to discuss an alliance?" Kethvar looked at his officers. They all looked as stunned as he felt. These humans were unlike any species they had ever encountered. They fought like demons, but they had saved Coalition lives. "Yes, Captain Morrison. I think we need to talk." News of the human victory spread across the galaxy like fire. In the Coalition capital on the planet Zerion, leaders watched recordings of the battle with amazement and fear. A single human ship had done what their entire fleet could not do for 30 years. On the Vorth homeworld of Krixtar, Queen Zexithara studied the same recordings with growing anger. Her insect-like features twisted with rage as she watched her ships flee from one small vessel. The queen was 8 feet tall with 4 arms and black armor-like skin. Her red eyes burned with fury. "How many ships did we lose?" she demanded. General Vixmore bowed low before answering. 57 ships destroyed, my queen. Commander Zixalok is dead. The remaining fleet has returned to base." Queen Zexithara slammed her clawed hand on her throne. 57 ships? To one vessel. What manner of beings are these humans? Our intelligence officers are working to find out, my queen. The humans appeared from nowhere. They seem to be from outside known space. Find out everything. I want to know what we are facing. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison sat in the conference room aboard the Coalition flagship Starbreaker. Admiral Kethvar had invited him for a meeting. The room was filled with Coalition officers from different species. Morrison was the only human present. "Captain Morrison," Admiral Kethvar began, "your actions yesterday saved many lives. The Coalition is grateful. We were glad to help, Admiral. But we need to understand. Your ship fought unlike anything we have ever seen. Your weapons, your tactics, your speed. How is this possible?" Morrison leaned back in his chair. He was a practical man who believed in being direct. "Admiral, humans have been fighting wars since we learned to pick up rocks. We have spent thousands of years perfecting the art of combat." A bird-like officer named General Trackwing spoke up. "But your weapons are so brutal. Those kinetic rounds punch through Vorth armor like it was nothing. Metal moving fast enough can punch through anything," Morrison replied. "We learned that lesson fighting each other." "And those nuclear missiles," added Admiral Kethvar. "Most civilized species banned such weapons long ago." Morrison shrugged. "On Earth we banned them too, for use against each other. But when facing an enemy that wants to enslave or destroy you, civilized rules become less important." The Coalition officers looked uncomfortable. Their wars were fought with rules and limits. They tried to minimize casualties and preserve life when possible. These humans seemed to approach war differently. "Captain," said Counselor Miraleth, a peaceful plant-like being, "surely there must be diplomatic solutions to this conflict." "Maybe," Morrison said, "but diplomacy only works when both sides want peace. The Vorth want to conquer the galaxy. Sometimes the only language aggressors understand is force. Over the next few weeks, more human ships arrived. The Coalition watched as humanity brought 5 more vessels to the war zone. Each ship was different but equally deadly. The UES Predator was built for stealth attacks. The UES Havoc carried weapons that could crack moons. The UES Guardian specialized in defense. Captain Alex Rivera commanded the Predator. He was a quiet man with dark hair and sharp eyes. He had trained in Earth's special forces before joining the Space Navy. His ship could become invisible to most sensors. Captain Nicole Brooks commanded the Havoc. She was a tough woman with red hair and a fierce smile. She had grown up on Mars, where people learned to be hard to survive. Her ship carried the most powerful weapons in the human fleet. The Vorth were not idle during this time. Queen Zexathara gathered intelligence about humanity. What she learned filled her with dread. "My queen," reported Intelligence Master Clicksnore, "we have studied their homeworld. The planet Earth is covered with weapons, cities built underground, military bases on every continent. They have enough nuclear weapons to destroy their own world several times over. And their history? Terrible, my queen. They have been at war constantly. World wars that killed millions, civil wars that lasted for years. They fight over resources, territory, ideas, religion, everything." Queen Zexathara felt a chill run through her shell. "What about their technology?" "Advanced, but not more than ours. Their advantage is not in their machines. It is in their minds. They think about war differently than any species we have encountered." The queen studied recordings of human battles. She watched as human ships used tactics that seemed crazy. They would fly directly into enemy fire, trusting their armor and speed. They would use their own damaged ships as weapons, ramming them into enemy vessels. They fought with a desperation and fury that scared even the Vorth. "They fight like cornered animals," she muttered. On the human ship Liberty, Lieutenant Amy Carter was planning the next attack. She spread star charts across the table in the war room. Captain Morrison and Commander Ben Phillips studied the maps with her. "The Vorth have supply lines running through 17 systems," Amy explained. "If we hit their fuel depots and weapon factories, we can hurt them badly." "How many ships are guarding these targets?" Morrison asked. "Between 5 and 15 ships per system. Nothing we cannot handle." Ben looked worried. "Captain, we only have 6 ships. Hitting 17 targets will spread us very thin." Morrison smiled. "Ben, you are thinking like the Coalition. They fight fair battles with equal numbers. Humans learned long ago that fair fights are for people who want to lose." "What do you mean, sir?" "We will not attack all 17 systems. We will attack 3 systems at once but make it look like we are hitting all 17. The Vorth will panic and spread their forces thin trying to defend everything." Amy nodded with understanding. "And while they are confused, we hit their main fleet base." "Exactly. In human warfare, we call this misdirection. Make the enemy think you are doing one thing while you do something else." The plan worked perfectly. Captain Rivera's stealth ship appeared in 3 different systems within an hour, destroyed key targets, and vanished before Vorth reinforcements arrived. The Vorth High Command panicked and sent ships to defend all their supply lines. While the Vorth fleet was scattered, Captain Brooks and the Havoc attacked their main base. Her ship's powerful weapons destroyed fuel stations and weapon depots. Within 6 hours, the Vorth had lost the supplies needed to continue their offensive. Queen Zexathara received the reports with growing fear. The humans were not just better fighters, they were smarter. They understood strategy in ways that terrified her. "My queen," General Vixmore said carefully, "perhaps we should consider peace negotiations." "Peace?" The queen's voice was dangerous. "The Vorth Empire does not surrender. We have conquered a dozen species. We will not be defeated by these barbaric humans. But my queen, their way of fighting, will not matter when we bring our full fleet to bear. Gather every ship. Call back all forces from conquered worlds. We will crush these humans with pure numbers." General Vixmore bowed, but privately he wondered if numbers would be enough. The humans had shown that they did not fight like other species. They fought to win no matter the cost. On the Liberty, Morrison received reports of Vorth ships massing for a major attack. He was not surprised. Aggressive species like the Vorth usually responded to defeats by escalating the conflict. "Sir," Amy reported, "intelligence suggests they are gathering over 1,000 ships." "Good," Morrison said calmly. "The more ships they bring, the more ships we can destroy in one battle." "Sir, those are not good odds." Morrison looked at his young tactical officer with fatherly pride. Amy, humans have faced worse odds and won. At the Battle of Thermopylae, 300 Spartans held off an army of hundreds of thousands. During World War II, a few pilots in flying machines stopped an invasion fleet. In space warfare, it is not about numbers. It is about who wants to win more. Amy smiled. She was learning that humans approached war differently than any other species. They did not fight to survive. They fought to win completely. The stage was set for the largest space battle in galactic history. The Vorth were bringing everything they had. The humans were ready to show the galaxy what total war really meant. The emergency meeting on the coalition capital world of Xerion brought together leaders from across known space. The massive assembly hall buzzed with worried conversations in dozens of languages. Representatives from every member species had come to discuss the human situation. Admiral Kethvar stood at the center podium, addressing the crowd. His blue skin looked pale under the bright lights. Fellow citizens of the coalition, we face a choice that will shape the future of our galaxy. Senator Yildona, a tall insect-like being from the Zephyr system, raised her arm. Admiral, these humans appeared from nowhere and started a war with the Vorth. How do we know they can be trusted? Because they saved our fleet when they could have ignored our distress call, Kethvar replied. The humans risked their lives to help people they had never met. General Baxiron, a massive reptilian warrior, slammed his fist on his desk. The humans fight like savages. They use nuclear weapons and show no mercy to enemies. What happens when they decide we are their enemies? Minister Veltar, the chief diplomat, spoke in her calm voice. We must consider the practical situation. The Vorth Empire has been growing stronger for 30 years. Without human help, they will eventually conquer all of us. The debate continued for hours. Some coalition members were grateful for human assistance. Others feared that humanity might be even more dangerous than the Vorth. Everyone agreed that these humans were unlike any species they had ever encountered. Meanwhile, on the human ship Liberty, Captain Morrison met with his senior officers. The conference room was simple and practical, like everything else on human ships. No fancy decorations or comfortable furniture. Just a metal table and basic chairs. The coalition wants to meet with our government, Morrison told his team. They want to discuss formal alliance terms. Commander Ben Phillips looked concerned. Captain, are we authorized to negotiate on behalf of Earth? Admiral Harris gave me full diplomatic authority before we left, Morrison replied. Earth High Command expected the situation might arise. Lieutenant Amy Carter studied her tablet. Sir, I have been analyzing coalition military capabilities. Their technology is advanced, but their tactics are defensive. They fight wars like they are playing games with rules. That is why they have been losing to the Vorth for 30 years, Morrison said. The Vorth understand that war is about destroying your enemy's ability to fight back. What do we want from the coalition? Asked Major Rick Stone, the ship's intelligence officer. He was a thin man with gray hair who spoke little but saw everything. Morrison leaned forward. Earth needs 3 things. First, access to galactic trade routes and technology. Second, recognition of human territorial claims in our region of space. Third, a guarantee that coalition members will not attack human colonies. And in exchange? Ben asked. We end the Vorth War within 1 year. The room fell silent. It was a bold promise. The coalition had been fighting the Vorth for 3 decades without success. Morrison was offering to win the war in 12 months. Captain, Amy said carefully, the Vorth Empire has thousands of ships and controls dozens of star systems. Can we really defeat them so quickly? Morrison smiled coldly. Amy, we will not just defeat them. We will break them so completely that they will never threaten anyone again. On the Vorth homeworld, Queen Zexithara held her own war council. The throne room was a vast cavern carved from black stone. Hundreds of Vorth officers knelt before their queen, their insect-like bodies trembling with fear and anger. Intelligence Master Clicksnore, the queen commanded. Tell us what you have learned about human capabilities. The intelligence officer stepped forward, his 4 arms holding data tablets. My queen, the humans come from a world called Earth in an unexplored region of space. Their technology is roughly equal to ours, but their approach to warfare is radically different. Explain. They have no concept of limited war. My queen, when humans fight, they fight to completely destroy their enemies. Their history shows constant warfare with no permanent truces or peaceful coexistence. General Vixmore spoke up. My queen, perhaps we should reconsider our expansion plans. The humans seem determined to stop us. Queen Zexathara's red eyes burned with fury. The Vorth Empire has never retreated from inferior species. We have conquered 12 star systems and enslaved millions. We will not be stopped by a handful of savage humans. But my queen, Intelligence Master Clicksnore said nervously, their planet Earth has weapons that could destroy entire worlds. They have something called planet crackers that can split moons in half. Then we will destroy their world before they can use such weapons, the queen decided. Gather our full fleet. Every ship from every conquered system. We will crush these humans and then finish conquering the coalition. The Vorth began the largest military mobilization in their history. Ships that had been scattered across their empire returned to the homeworld. Factory worlds worked around the clock to build new vessels. The Queen was preparing for total war. Back on Zerion, the Coalition Council finally reached a decision. They would negotiate with humanity. The risks of alliance seemed smaller than the certainty of defeat without human help. Captain Morrison arrived for the formal negotiations accompanied by his diplomatic team. Commander Lisa Grant, a skilled negotiator who had studied alien cultures for years, would handle most of the talking. Major Stone would provide intelligence support. The coalition delegation was led by Minister Veltar, with Admiral Kethavar representing military interests and Senator Yildona speaking for the civilian governments. Captain Morrison, Minister Veltar began. The coalition appreciates your assistance against the Vorth. We are prepared to discuss mutual cooperation. We are glad to hear that, Morrison replied. Humanity believes that free people should stand together against tyranny. What exactly are your terms for alliance? Senator Yildona asked. Commander Grant opened her tablet and read from prepared notes. Earth requests 3 things. First, full membership in the coalition with voting rights and access to trade networks. Second, recognition of human territorial claims in the Sol system and surrounding regions. Third, a mutual defense agreement. And what does humanity offer in return? Admiral Kethavar asked. Morrison leaned forward. We will end the Vorth War within 1 year, and ensure they never threaten coalition worlds again. The coalition negotiators exchanged glances. It seemed impossible, but they had seen what human ships could do in battle. How can you be so certain of victory? Minister Veltar asked. Major Stone spoke for the first time. Because we know things about the Vorth that you do not. We have been studying them for months while staying hidden. We know their weaknesses. What weaknesses? General Baxiron demanded. The Vorth Empire is built on fear and rigid hierarchy, Stone explained. Every ship, every planet, every system is controlled by a queen. Kill the queens, and their entire command structure collapses. The Vorth queens are heavily protected, Admiral Kethavar pointed out. Many are hidden on fortified worlds deep in their territory. Morrison smiled. Admiral, humans spent centuries learning how to kill heavily protected targets. We know where every Vorth queen is located. We know how to reach them, and we know how to kill them. The negotiations continued for 3 days. The coalition was desperate for help but worried about the price. The humans seemed confident but demanded significant concessions. Finally, an agreement was reached. Humanity would join the coalition as a full member. Human territorial claims would be recognized. In exchange, the human fleet would destroy the Vorth Empire's ability to wage war. As the documents were signed, Minister Veltar asked Morrison a quiet question. Captain, are you certain you can keep this promise? The Vorth are very powerful. Morrison looked at the alien diplomat with calm eyes. Minister, humans have a saying, peace through superior firepower. You're about to learn what that means. News of the human alliance spread across the galaxy within hours. Coalition worlds celebrated, hoping that the long war might finally end. Vorth territories prepared for the largest military campaign in galactic history. In deep space, human reinforcements were already moving toward the front lines. Earth had been preparing for this moment since the Liberty first made contact. Admiral Kate Sullivan commanded a fleet of 30 human warships, each one designed for a specific purpose. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy. The Vorth had numbers and experience. The humans had strategy and determination. Queen Zexathara gathered her 1,000-ship armada, confident that sheer force would crush these upstart humans. She had no idea that humanity had already decided her fate. The humans were not coming to fight a battle. They were coming to end an empire. The final phase of the Vorth War was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution as the human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Vorth territory. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and steel blue eyes that had seen too many battles. Behind her, 30 human warships took formation in the darkness of space. "Wall, ships report ready for combat operations," announced Commander Lisa Grant from her position at the communications. "Station, sensor report," Sullivan ordered. Lieutenant Commander Tony Parker studied his displays. "Admiral, Vorth forces are massing in the Krikstar system. Long-range sensors detect over 800 ships around their homeworld." Sullivan nodded. Earth intelligence had predicted this. The Vorth would gather their full fleet to protect their queen and core worlds. It was exactly what humanity wanted them to do. Signal Captain Morrison on the Liberty. Tell him Phase 1 is complete. On the Liberty, Captain Morrison received the message with satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly. While the Vorth concentrated their forces defensively, human strike teams were already in position throughout their empire. "Amy, status report on our infiltration teams," Morrison said to his tactical officer. Lieutenant Amy Carter checked her secured communications. "Sir, all deep strike teams report ready. Captain Foster confirms his team is in position near the Zexkol system. Captain Rivera and the Predator are hidden in the asteroid belt at Vorthmol. Captain Brooks has the Havoc standing by at the edge of the Klikstar Nebula." Morrison smiled grimly. "Signal Admiral Sullivan. Tell her we are ready to begin Operation Queen's Gambit." The operation had been planned for months while humanity studied Vorth society. Major Rick Stone and his intelligence teams had identified a critical weakness in the Vorth Empire. Their entire civilization was built around queens who controlled different regions of space. Kill enough queens simultaneously, and the empire would collapse into chaos. Captain Dan Foster commanded the UES Ranger, a specially modified ship designed for deep penetration missions. He was a quiet man with black hair and careful eyes who had spent years studying alien psychology. His ship was currently hidden near the industrial world of Zexkol, where Queen Nixavara commanded the Vorth weapons manufacturing. "Status report," Foster whispered to his crew. Even in space, infiltration teams spoke quietly out of habit. "Queen's ship is docked at the orbital factory," reported his sensor officer, Lieutenant Sarah Mills. 50 escort ships in close formation. "Electronic warfare status?" "Standing by to jam their communications on your command," replied Specialist Jim Torres from his console. Foster had studied the Vorth Queen's routine for weeks. Every 7 days, she visited the weapons factory to inspect production. Today was inspection day. The Queen would be exactly where humanity needed her to be. In 17 other systems throughout Vorth space, similar scenes were playing out. Human ships waited in hiding, their crews watching Vorth queens who had no idea they were about to die. On the Vorth homeworld, Queen Zexithera reviewed her defensive preparations. Her throne room buzzed with activity as officers reported on fleet positions and planetary defenses. "My queen," General Vixmore announced, "our fleet now numbers 1,012 ships. All approaches to the homeworld are heavily defended." "What about the human fleet?" "Intelligence reports 30 human ships at the edge of our territory." "They seem to be waiting." Queen Zexithera felt uneasy. In her experience, aggressive species attacked immediately when they had the advantage. Why were the humans waiting? "Perhaps they are afraid," suggested Intelligence Master Clicksnore. "They have seen our fleet strength and realize they cannot win." The Queen was not convinced. Her study of human tactics showed they were too smart to attack defended positions directly. They preferred surprise attacks and unconventional strategies. "Double the guard around all Queen ships," she ordered. "These humans are planning something." But her order came too late. Admiral Sullivan checked her chronometer. "All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan. Operation Queen's Gambit begins in 60 seconds. All strike teams prepare for simultaneous execution." Across Vorth space, human captains received the signal. Years of training and months of preparation came down to the next few minutes. Captain Foster watched as Queen Nixavara's ship docked with the orbital factory. "All stations, execute attack pattern Alpha. Electronics warfare. Jam all Vorth communications now." The Ranger dropped its stealth field and accelerated toward the factory complex. Vorth escort ships scrambled to respond. but their communications were filled with static. They could not coordinate their defense. Foster's ship fired a spread of nuclear-tipped missiles. The Queen's vessel exploded in a ball of plasma before she could escape. 50 escort ships tried to pursue the Ranger, but the human ship had already vanished back into stealth mode. In the Vorthmal system, Captain Rivera's stealth ship materialized inside the defensive perimeter around Queen Gixinara's mobile fortress. Rivera was a compact man with dark skin and quick reflexes who had trained for exactly this kind of mission. "Target the Queen's command center," he ordered his weapons officer, Lieutenant Carol West. "Missiles away." The fortress exploded from within as human missiles penetrated its armor. Queen Gixinara died instantly along with her entire command staff. Captain Brooks approached her target differently. Queen Hixlara commanded from a massive bioship that could regenerate damage. Nuclear missiles would not be enough to ensure a kill. "Take us in close," Brooks ordered her pilot, Commander Steve Adams. "We will ram that thing if we have to." The Havoc accelerated toward the bioship at maximum speed. Fourth defenders fired everything they had, but Brooks's ship was built to take punishment. At point-blank range, she fired her ship's most powerful weapon. The Planet Cracker missile was designed to split moons in half. When it detonated inside the bioship, Queen Hixalara and her entire vessel simply ceased to exist. Across 17 star systems, the same scene repeated. Human ships appeared from nowhere, destroyed Vorth Queens, and vanished before effective resistance could be organized. Each attack was perfectly timed and devastatingly effective. On the Vorth homeworld, Queen Zexithara received the first damage reports with growing horror. "My Queen," a communications officer reported in a shaking voice. "We have lost contact with Queen Nixvara at Zexkul. Sensor malfunction." "No, my Queen. The orbital factory is gone. Completely destroyed." Before she could respond, more reports flooded in. Queen Gixinara was dead. Queen Hixlara was missing. Queen Yixithara had been killed when her palace ship exploded. "How many queens have we lost?" Zexithara demanded. Intelligence Master Clicksnor consulted his displays with trembling claws. 17 confirmed deaths, my Queen, all within the last hour." The throne room fell silent. 17 queens dead in 1 hour. The Vorth Empire had never suffered such losses in its entire history. "How is this possible?" General Vixmore asked. "Our intelligence showed all human ships at the edge of our territory. The humans have stealth technology we did not detect," Clicksnor replied. "They have been positioning strike teams throughout our empire for weeks." Queen Zexithara felt fear creeping into her mind. The humans had not just attacked her empire, they had surgically removed its leadership with precision that terrified her. "Order all remaining queens to return to heavily defended systems immediately," she commanded. "My Queen, many regional commanders are not responding to orders. With their queens dead, local forces are in chaos." The reports continued to pour in. Without their queens to give orders, Fourth fleets were abandoning their positions. Some ships were fighting each other for control. Entire star systems were declaring independence from the Empire. Admiral Sullivan watched the results of Operation Queen's Gambit with satisfaction. Her tactical display showed Vorth forces throughout their empire falling into disarray. "Phase 1 complete," she announced to her fleet. 17 targets eliminated. Fourth command structure is collapsing. Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication system. "Congratulations, Admiral. Intelligence reports suggest we have caused more damage in 1 hour than the Coalition achieved in 30 years. What is the status of the Vorth home fleet?" Still massed around their homeworld, Queen Zexithara appears to be trying to maintain control, but her forces are scattered and demoralized. Sullivan studied the tactical situation. The Vorth still had superior numbers, but their advantage in organization and leadership was gone. It was time for Phase 2. "All ships prepare for direct assault on the Vorth homeworld. We are going to finish this war." The human fleet began moving toward the heart of the Vorth Empire. Behind them, Vorth territories burned with civil war and chaos. Ahead lay the final confrontation with Queen Zexithara and her remaining forces. The galaxy watched as humanity prepared to prove that sometimes the only way to ensure peace was to make war too costly to continue. On the Vorth homeworld, Queen Zexithara stared at her tactical displays with growing desperation. Half her empire was in rebellion. Her fleet was strong but confused, and 30 human ships were approaching her homeworld with the confidence of predators closing in for the kill. She had underestimated humanity once. She would not make that mistake again, but as she prepared for the final battle, she wondered if it was already too late. The final battle of the Vorth War began in the shadow of the Krixtar Nebula, where Queen Zexthara had positioned her remaining fleet. 800 Vorth ships formed defensive lines around their homeworld, their black hulls gleaming like beetles in the light of the Red Star. Admiral Kate Sullivan studied the enemy formation from the bridge of the Retribution. Her 30 ships seemed tiny compared to the massive Vorth armada, but she had learned long ago that numbers did not always determine victory. "Sensor report," she ordered. Lieutenant Commander Tony Parker checked his displays. "Admiral, the Vorth have positioned their ships in 3 defensive shells around the planet. Queen Zexthara's command ship is at the center, protected by her elite guard. Any sign of the bioships?" "Confirmed. 12 regenerating vessels in the front line. They will be difficult to destroy with conventional weapons." Sullivan nodded. The Vorth bioships could heal damage almost as fast as human weapons could inflict it. But humanity had prepared for this possibility. "Signal Dr. Sarah Bell on the research vessel Newton," Sullivan commanded. "Tell her it is time to deploy the special weapon." Dr. Bell was a small woman with blonde hair and bright green eyes who specialized in psychological warfare. She had spent months developing a weapon that could affect the Vorth in ways they would never expect. "Admiral," Dr. Bell's voice came through the communication system, "the mimetic virus is ready for deployment. Are you certain about this? Once we use it, there is no going back. Doctor, these creatures have spent 30 years enslaving and killing innocent people. They understand only force. Give them something to really fear." On the Vorth command ship, Queen Zexthara watched the human fleet approach with growing unease. She had studied human tactics and prepared her defenses accordingly. Her bioships would absorb the first attack while her main fleet surrounded and destroyed the humans. "General Vixmore," she commanded, "deploy the swarm fighters. I want those human ships buried under our numbers." "Yes, my queen." Thousands of small Vorth fighters launched from the capital ships, forming dark clouds that moved toward the human fleet. Each fighter was controlled by a Vorth warrior bred for absolute loyalty and fearlessness. Captain Morrison watched the approaching swarm from the Bridge of the Liberty. "Amy, how many fighters are we looking at?" "Approximately 15,000, sir. They outnumber us 500 to 1. "Good odds," Morrison said calmly. "Ben, take us into the nebula. It is time to show them what human ingenuity can accomplish." The human fleet plunged into the Krixtar Nebula, using the dense gas clouds to mask their movements. The Vorth fighters followed, confident that superior numbers would guarantee victory. What happened next would be remembered as the most terrifying moment in galactic military history. Dr. Bell activated her special weapon from the research ship Newton. It was not a bomb or missile, but something far more dangerous. A signal that carried information directly into the neural networks of every Vorth within range. The signal contained the complete military history of humanity. Every war, every battle, every weapon humans had ever developed. The Vorth fighters suddenly experienced the full horror of human conflict, as if they had lived through it themselves. They saw the nuclear destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They experienced the chemical weapons of World War I. They witnessed the orbital bombardments that had ended Earth's resource wars. They felt the terror of soldiers facing human armies that never retreated and never showed mercy, but worst of all, they understood what humanity was truly capable of when fully committed to war. Fighter pilot Zekalar had been bred for fearlessness, but as the human memories flooded his mind, he felt something no Vorth had ever experienced. Pure, overwhelming terror. He saw weapons that could crack planets, bombs that could destroy entire star systems, and military strategies that treated genocide as just another tactical option. "No," he whispered, abandoning his attack run. "They are monsters." Across the swarm, the same reaction spread like wildfire. Vorth fighters that had never retreated in their lives suddenly fled in panic. The sight of 15,000 warriors running from 30 ships sent shockwaves through the main fleet. Queen Zexthara watched in horror as her elite fighters scattered. "What is happening? Why are they retreating?" "My queen," Intelligence Master Clixnor reported in a shaking voice, "the humans have deployed some kind of psychological weapon. Our fighters are reporting mass hallucinations of human military capabilities." "Hallucinations?" "No, my queen. Intelligence suggests these are actual memories from human history. The humans are showing our forces exactly what they are capable of. On the research ship Newton, Dr. Bell monitored the weapon's effects with scientific interest. The mimetic virus was working better than she had hoped. The Vorth were experiencing cognitive overload as their minds tried to process the full scope of human warfare. "Dr. Bell," came Admiral Sullivan's voice, "are you reading the psychological impact?" "Confirmed, Admiral. The Vorth are experiencing mass panic. Their entire cultural framework is built around being the most violent species in the galaxy. Learning that humans are far more brutal is causing complete psychological breakdown. The effects spread beyond just the fighters. As the virus propagated through Vorth communication networks, even the capital ships began to waver. Crews that had conquered a dozen worlds suddenly understood. They were facing a species that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of total war. Queen Zexithara felt the fear creeping into her own mind as reports flooded in. Her forces were seeing visions of human weapons that could boil oceans, space stations that could launch rocks at planets fast enough to shatter continents, and strategies that treated entire species as acceptable casualties. "My queen," General Vixmore said quietly, "perhaps we should consider surrender." Surrender? The word felt foreign in her mouth. The Vorth had never surrendered to anyone. "My queen, these humans have weapons that could destroy our entire civilization. They could turn our homeworld into ash and not consider it unusual." Captain Morrison's voice suddenly filled the Vorth command ship. The humans had hacked their communication system. "Queen Zexithara, this is Captain Morrison of the human fleet. We are prepared to accept your surrender." "Surrender?" she snarled, fighting against the fear. "The Vorth Empire does not surrender to inferior species." "Your Majesty," Morrison's voice was calm and reasonable, "you are not surrendering to an inferior species. You are surrendering to a species that has turned warfare into an art form. We have shown you a small sample of human military history. Would you like to see more?" The Queen felt her resolve cracking. The humans had not just defeated her forces. They had broken something fundamental in the Vorth psyche. Her warriors now understood that their enemies were capable of violence beyond their worst nightmares. "What are your terms?" she asked quietly. "Simple. Complete withdrawal from all conquered territories. Recognition of coalition sovereignty. Dismantlement of your offensive fleet. In exchange, we will not deploy our full military capability against your remaining worlds." Admiral Sullivan watched as Vorth ships throughout the system began powering down their weapons. The psychological weapon had accomplished more in 1 hour than conventional warfare might have achieved in years. "Admiral," Captain Morrison's voice came through the communication system, "the Queen is requesting a formal ceasefire. She wants to negotiate surrender terms. Accepted. Signal all ships to stand down but remain alert." The peace negotiations took place aboard the Liberty, with representatives from the coalition witnessing the end of the longest war in galactic history. Queen Zexithara arrived with a small delegation, her red eyes dulled with defeat. "The terms are acceptable," she said quietly to Morrison. "The Vorth Empire will withdraw to our original territory and cease all aggressive actions." Minister Veltar from the coalition leaned forward. "Your Majesty, why the sudden change? Your empire seemed committed to conquest." The Queen looked at the coalition diplomat with something approaching pity. "Minister, you have been fighting us for 30 years without truly understanding what warfare means. These humans have shown us real war. We have no desire to face their full capabilities." Admiral Kethavar asked the question that puzzled everyone. "Captain Morrison, what exactly did you show them?" Morrison's expression was serious. "Admiral, we showed them the truth. Human history is filled with wars that ended only when one side was completely destroyed. We have weapons that make nuclear bombs look like firecrackers. We have strategies that treat entire planets as expendable resources. Are you saying you would actually use such weapons? Admiral, we would prefer not to. But if pushed to total war, humanity will do whatever is necessary to survive. The Vorth now understand this. The treaty was signed within hours. The Vorth Empire agreed to withdraw from all conquered territories and limit their fleet to defensive forces only. In exchange, humanity promised not to deploy their more devastating weapons against civilian populations. As the various fleets began to disperse, Admiral Sullivan received a private message from Earth High Command. "Admiral," came the voice of Fleet Admiral Patricia Hayes, "congratulations on ending the war. However, we have concerns about the psychological weapon. The effect seems to be spreading beyond the intended targets." "What do you mean, Admiral?"